As we all know, Microsoft are very much pushing to have the next load of PC games coming to the Xbox One to the PC platform, exclusive to not only Windows 10 but to the Windows Store as well. We are seeing this of course with Quantum Break, Gears of War, and undoubtedly we will see it with future titles such as Recall and the possibility of, say, Scalebound or any other future titles that are cross-platform. And now we've had some really interesting comments from Tim Sweeney, who is the boss over at Epic Games, and he launched what can be rightly called a scathing attack on Microsoft. And he wrote in The Guardian and basically accused Microsoft of, quote, trying to monopolise game development on PC. And he basically called on the industry to fight Microsoft and what Microsoft are calling the Universal Windows Platform Initiative, which I have detailed in a previous video. Just search Universal Windows Platform or UWP and it should pop up. And he's basically claiming that this initiative is subverting the rights of developers and curtails users' freedom. And he said, quote, "In my view, this is the most aggressive move Microsoft has ever made." Now, Microsoft has launched features that are exclusive to the UWP, and this is a move that Sweeney views as, quote, effectively telling developers you can use these Windows feature only if you submit to the control of our lockdown UWP ecosystem. They're curtailing users' freedom to install full-featured PC software and subverting the rights of developers and publishers to maintain a direct relationship with their customers. Now, as I discussed in the previous video that I mentioned earlier, the boss of Xbox, Phil Spencer, basically said that, UWP would benefit developers and basically enable them to create apps that work across devices like Xbox One and Windows 10, but obviously Windows 10 has a lot of drawbacks in itself, and of course the Windows Store has more further. And it's the Windows Store that Sweeney also takes aim at, and this also does sell Universal Windows applications. And he went on to accuse Microsoft of, quote, structuring its operating system to advantage its own store while unfairly disadvantaging competing app stores as well as developers and publishers who distribute games directly to their customers. And according to Sweeney, by default it is impossible to download UWP apps from the websites of publishers and developers, and you cannot by default install them, update them and conduct commerce in them outside the Windows Store. So basically by default you are forced to do everything through the Windows Store. So if the developers, say, wanted to offer you a DRM free version, say on GOG or through their own website, they literally cannot do that by default. And he said, quote, "It's true that if you dig far enough into Microsoft settings burying UI, you can find a way to install these apps by enabling sideloading. But in turning this off by default, Microsoft is unfairly disadvantaging the competition. Bigger picture, this is a feature Microsoft can revoke at any time using Microsoft 10's force update process." Now, in his next load of statements, he was not shy and he did not pull any punches and basically called on Microsoft to make the UWP a more open platform. And he went on to say, quote, "Valve's Steam distribution service is booming with over 100 million users, and publishers like Adobe, Autodesk, Blizzard, Riot Games and EA are operating highly successful businesses selling their games and content directly to consumers. Microsoft's situation, however, is an embarrassment. 7 months after the launch of Windows Store alongside Windows 10, the place remains devoid of the top third-party games and signature applications that define the PC experience. Where's Photoshop, Grand Theft Auto 5, FIFA 2016? There are some PC ports of what were great mobile games and some weirder things such as the Windows 10 port of the Android port, the PC version of Grand Theft Auto from 2004. But the good PC stuff isn't there, with the exception of Microsoft's own software products. Does Microsoft really think that independent PC developers and publishers who cherish their freedom and their direct customer relationships are going to sign up for this current UWP fiasco? In my view, if Microsoft does not commit to opening PC UWP up in the manner described here, then PC UWP can, should and will die as a result of industry backlash. Gamers, developers, publishers simply cannot trust the PC UWP quote-unquote platform so long as Microsoft gives evasive, ambiguous and sneaky answers to the questions about UWP's future as if it's a PR issue. This isn't a PR issue, it's an existential issue for Microsoft, a first-class detriment of Microsoft's future and role in the world. So obviously all of that was in quote for Tim Sweeney, and as I said, he was not shy. He pretty much laid it all out on the table, and all of these are issues that are definitely interesting to know, as of course Windows 10 and the Windows Store has a lot of issues for the user, but it's certainly refreshing and enlightening to hear the opinion of a developer, and this is obviously Epic Games are not some small company, they're a big AAA developer, of course, responsible for numerous games, as well as, of course, the Unreal Engine. So, comments this scathing from a guy like Tim Sweeney are not to be taken lightly. And at the original time of posting this article in The Guardian, there had not been a response to Tim's comments, but now there actually has been an update, as Microsoft has responded to his piece. In fact, it's Kevin Gallo, who's Corporate Vice President of Windows over at Microsoft, and issued a statement to The Guardian, which reads, quote, "The Universal Windows platform is a fully open ecosystem available to every developer that can be supported by any store. We continue to make improvements for developers. For example, in the Windows 10 November update, we enabled people to easily sideload apps by default with no UX required. We want to make Windows the best development platform regardless of technologies used, and offer tools to help developers with existing code bases of HTML, JavaScript, .NET, and Win32, C++, and Objective-C to bring their code to Windows, and integrate UWP capabilities. With Xamarin, UWP developers can not only reach all Windows 10 devices, but they can now use a large percentage of their C# code to deliver a fully native mobile app experience for iOS and Android. We also posted a blog about our development tools recently." So, there you have it. That was a response from Microsoft, but sadly they didn't really address these issues. Now, obviously, I can only speak about the Windows Store and Windows 10 as a user, and Windows definitely has a ton of problems. I actually am going to be doing a bit of a video on the Windows 10 storefront in the next couple of weeks, probably. And it has a ton of problems, and the lack of games on there is one of them. And it's interesting to note, as I said earlier, the perspective of a developer, especially one as experienced as Tim Sweeney. So I'd love to hear thoughts from you guys. What do you think of his comments and, of course, Microsoft's response, and just your thoughts in general on the Windows Store and what Microsoft has to do to make it, at least a competitor to Steam? Because the fact of the matter is, Steam has a pretty large monopoly on PC gaming. That's not to say there aren't other alternatives. They are GOG, Green Man Gaming, or of course Origin, and Shudder, Uplay. So it's not like they're their only game in town, but they are undeniably the biggest game in town, and I would love to see a real competitor to them, but I just don't think that's going to be the Windows Store if that keeps on going this way. And I don't think it ever will be, because Microsoft's going to Microsoft. Anyway, as I said, let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.